Imam al-Ghazali did not describe Tawhid as one belief, but 4 living levels. Most people stop at the first and never notice. The shock is that your prayers, fears, and hopes reveal your true level instantly. Stay, and you will gain a map for recognizing pure oneness within yourself. This is the level of spoken belief. Your tongue says, "There is no God but Allah." You affirm the truth. You reject idols. You reject many gods. You accept Islam with your words and your mind. Imam al-Ghazali does not dismiss this level. He begins here because every journey begins with a door. Yet a door is not the house. At this stage, faith lives mostly in statements. You know what is true. You can explain it. You can defend it. If someone asks what you believe, your answer is clear, but your inner world often tells a different story. You say Allah controls provision, yet money creates panic. You say Allah controls outcomes, yet people control your mood. You say Allah is enough, yet your heart still seeks safety from created things. This does not mean you are a hypocrite. It means belief has reached the tongue before it has conquered the heart. Many people live here. They pray. They fast. They speak the truth of Tawhid. Yet when pressure arrives, hidden masters appear. Fear becomes a master. Reputation becomes a master. Desire becomes a master. This teaching is not magic. It is an observation. Al-Ghazali asks you to watch your reactions, because reactions expose what words can hide. The trap of this level is thinking correct speech equals complete faith. A person learns sacred words and assumes the journey is over. Knowledge becomes a trophy instead of a mirror. The comfortable lie says, because I speak the truth, I fully live the truth. The exit begins with honest observation. Do not ask what your tongue believes. Ask what your fear obeys. That question opens next door. This is the level where belief descends into the heart. Now Allah is not only the one you speak about. He becomes the one you rely upon. The world still exists around you. Causes still exist. Work still matters. Effort still matters. But something changes deep inside. Dependence begins to shift. When good arrives, your heart sees the giver behind the gift. When hardship arrives, your heart searches for wisdom before blame. Life feels different here. You still experience fear. You still experience sadness. Yet these states no longer rule you. They visit. They do not reign. The people who live at this level often appear calm during storms. Others think they possess unusual strength. The truth is simpler. Their center of trust has moved. They no longer expect created things to carry the weight that belongs only to Allah. But a subtle trap waits here. The trap is spiritual pride. You begin noticing your trust. You begin noticing your patience. You begin noticing your growth. Then the ego whispers a dangerous thought. Look how strong your faith has become. Now the self quietly steals credit for gifts it never created. The comfortable lie says, I reached this level through my own excellence. That lie freezes movement. The exit is gratitude mixed with humility. Every gain comes from Allah. Every opening comes from Allah. Every moment of sincerity comes from Allah. The more clearly you see that truth, the closer you move toward the third level. And this is where Imam al-Ghazali's map becomes deeply uncomfortable, because the next level challenges the way most people see themselves, their actions, and even their worship. This is the level where you begin seeing Allah as the true source behind every event. The world of causes remains. Fire still burns. Water still quenches thirst. Medicine still heals. Effort still matters. But your vision changes. You stop seeing causes as independent powers. You see them as tools moved by the will of Allah. A farmer plants seeds. Rain falls. Crops grow. Most people stop at the visible chain. The person living this level looks deeper. They see the seed, the rain, the soil, and the harvest as servants of a single command. Nothing acts alone. Nothing stands outside divine power. This realization creates a strange feeling. You become less angry at events. You become less obsessed with control. You work hard, but desperation begins to fade. You understand that outcomes never belong to you. Many people hear this teaching and misunderstand it. They think it means becoming passive. It does not. The Prophet tied his camel before trusting Allah. Action remains necessary. Effort remains an obligation. The difference lies inside. You act without worshiping your actions. You plan without worshiping your plans. You strive without believing that success comes from your striving alone. The people who live here often possess unusual steadiness. Praise does not inflate them. Failure does not destroy them. Their eyes see something larger than both. Yet another trap waits. This trap is subtle because it wears religious clothing. A person begins seeing divine wisdom everywhere. This is good. Then they begin speaking as if they fully understand Allah's wisdom in every event. This is dangerous. The comfortable lie says, because I see more than others, I understand the whole picture. But no human sees the whole picture. The servant remains a servant. The exit is awesome. The deeper your vision becomes, the more mystery you recognize. You stop trying to stand above creation. You stand before Allah with greater wonder. And wonder opens the final door. This is the highest level described by Imam al-Ghazali. It is also the easiest to misunderstand. This level does not mean creation becomes Allah. It does not mean you become Allah. It does not erase the difference between creator and creation. Instead, it describes a state of witnessing. The heart becomes so occupied with Allah that everything else loses its claim on attention. The world remains. People remain. Responsibilities remain. But the heart sees one reality shining through everything. A simple example helps. Imagine looking at the stars before sunrise. You can still see them. Then the sun rises. The stars have not vanished, yet the sun becomes so overwhelming that your attention belongs almost entirely to it. This level feels similar. Created things still exist, but divine presence becomes the dominant reality of awareness. The saints described moments when every blessing pointed them toward Allah. Every hardship pointed them toward Allah. Every breath pointed them toward Allah. Nothing felt separate from remembrance. At this level, worship changes. Prayer is no longer a task to complete. Prayer becomes a return. Dhikr, the remembrance of Allah, no longer feels like effort. It feels like home. The people who reach this station often become deeply gentle. They judge less. They forgive more. They compete less. They love goodness without needing recognition. Something inside them has become free. But even here, a final trap exists. The trap is claiming arrival. The ego can survive astonishing heights. It can whisper, "You have reached the end." Yet every sincere knower understands something else. There is no end to knowing Allah. There is no finish line. There is no moment when the servant graduates from need. The comfortable lie says, "I have arrived." The truth says, "I need Allah more than ever." That truth protects the heart. That truth keeps the door open. And now a deeper question appears. If these four levels are real, what does the human being who fully embodies them actually look like? Not in theory, not in books, in daily life, in conversation, in hardship, in prayer, in ordinary moments that reveal extraordinary hearts. That picture matters because without it, the map remains abstract. And once you see that person clearly, you may begin recognizing where you stand on the map yourself. The four levels form a ladder, but they also form a mirror. Most people do not live entirely on one level. You may trust Allah deeply in one area and struggle in another. You may stand at the third level during hardship and fall back to the first during success. That is why Imam al-Ghazali's map remains powerful. It does not classify people. It reveals movements of the heart. A single day can expose those movements. Watch yourself when something you love is threatened. Watch yourself when praise arrives. Watch yourself when plans collapse. Your reactions often reveal your true station more clearly than your words. The movement between levels, the journey from one level to another, rarely feels dramatic. Most people expect a lightning strike. They expect a sudden transformation. Instead, growth usually feels quiet. The first shift happens when knowledge becomes self-observation. You stop asking, "What should I believe?" You begin asking, "What do I actually trust?" That question changes everything. The second shift happens when trust becomes surrender. You stop demanding that life follow your script. You still make plans. You still pursue goals. But you release the illusion that you control results. Many people resist this stage. The ego enjoys control. Even imagined control feels comforting. Yet much suffering comes from trying to carry a burden Allah never asked you to carry. The third shift happens when surrender becomes witnessing. You begin noticing Allah's signs everywhere, not because the signs suddenly appear. They were always there. Your attention changes. The same sunrise now speaks. The same hardship now teaches. The same blessing now points beyond itself. This is why two people can live the same life and experience entirely different worlds. One sees events, the other sees meanings. The hidden test of worship: most people ask one question after worship. Did I perform it correctly? That question matters, but al-Ghazali points toward another question. What did this worship do to my heart? A prayer accepted by Allah leaves traces. Not perfection, not instant sainthood. Traces. After prayer, does your heart soften? After dhikr, does your anxiety weaken? After charity, does your attachment loosen? After fasting, does your ego become quieter? If worship leaves no mark on the heart, something requires attention. The outer action may be present while the inner journey stands still. This does not mean your worship is worthless. It means the invitation has not yet been fully accepted. Many people measure worship by quantity. Al-Ghazali teaches you to also measure transformation. A single prayer that breaks arrogance may change more than many prayers performed without presence. A single moment of sincere remembrance may heal years of distraction. The goal is not accumulation. The goal is nearness. The person formed by pure Tawhid imagines someone who truly lives these four levels, not perfectly, but sincerely. When praise reaches them, gratitude rises before pride. When criticism reaches them, reflection rises before anger. When blessings arrive, they remember the giver. When loss arrives, they do not lose themselves. People feel calm around them. Not because they are always speaking. Often they speak less. Their presence carries weight. They do not need to win every argument. They do not need to dominate every room. Their security comes from somewhere deeper. You notice another quality. They are difficult to manipulate. Fear does not easily control them. Greed does not easily control them. Public opinion does not easily control them. Their heart has found a stronger center. This person still struggles. They still make mistakes. They still repent. but their direction remains clear. Every experience pushes them toward Allah instead of away from Him. That is the fruit of Tawhid, not information, transformation. And now comes the uncomfortable part. The map only becomes useful when you honestly locate yourself upon it. The next step is diagnosis. Not to judge yourself, not to shame yourself, to see clearly. Because a traveler cannot move forward until they know where they stand. Picture a person whose heart has become anchored in Allah. They wake before dawn, not because someone forces them, not because they seek admiration. They wake because they miss the quiet. When they pray, they are not performing for an audience. They are returning to the one they trust most. Life still tests them. Bills arrive. Plans fail. People disappoint them. Yet something remains steady. They do not fall apart every time the world changes shape. They carry a calm strength that others notice. People seek their advice during hard times. Children feel safe around them. Friends trust them with their secrets. Why? Because their heart is not constantly swinging between fear and pride. Success does not make them arrogant. Failure does not make them hopeless. They know both come from Allah's wisdom. This person rarely talks about spiritual rank. In fact, the closer they come to Allah, the more humble they become. They see their flaws clearly. They repent often. They thank Allah often. They do not walk through life feeling superior. They walk through life feeling dependent. That dependence becomes their strength. When you meet someone like this, you feel something difficult to explain. You feel reminded of Allah, not because they preach constantly, because they embody something real. This is the human being al-Ghazali's map is trying to form. Not a scholar of concepts, a servant whose heart has become free. Do not answer these quickly. Sit with them. Let them expose what your tongue may hide. First question. When your plans collapse, what breaks first? Your strategy or your trust? If trust collapses immediately, you may still live mostly in the first level. Second question. When people praise you, what gives you more pleasure? Their approval or Allah's acceptance? The answer reveals where your heart seeks value. Third question. When you feel fear, where does your mind run first? Toward Allah or toward created things? Everyone seeks help through means. The question is where your heart rests. Fourth question. After prayer, do you feel different? Even slightly? More patient, more grateful, more aware? If worship changes nothing inside, the journey has slowed. Fifth question. Do you obey Allah only when obedience feels comfortable, or do you continue when it costs you something? Comfort often reveals hidden idols. Sixth question. When blessings arrive, do you become attached to the gift or more attached to the giver? That answer reveals the direction of your love. Seventh question. How much of your daily thinking revolves around controlling outcomes? Many hearts suffer from burdens they were never meant to carry. Eighth question. What occupies your mind during quiet moments? When no one is watching, where does your attention naturally return? That answer often reveals your true qibla, your inner direction. Do not use these questions as weapons against yourself. Use them as a map. A traveler who discovers they are lost has gained useful knowledge. The person who refuses to look remains lost without knowing it. Honest awareness is not failure. Honest awareness is the beginning of movement. And once you know where you stand, Imam al-Ghazali gives something equally important. A way forward. Not someday. Not next year. Tonight, the first practice begins tonight. Sit alone for 5 minutes before sleep. Ask yourself one question. What controlled my heart today? Do not answer quickly. Look at your fears. Look at your anger. Look at your excitement. Look at your worries. Then ask a second question. Did these emotions bring me closer to Allah or pull me away from Him? Imam al-Ghazali often directs attention towards self-examination because unseen problems cannot be healed. A heart that never observes itself rarely changes. A heart that watches itself begins to wake up. The second practice is simple. Choose one act of worship this week. Only one. Do not increase quantity. Increase presence. If you pray 2 units of prayer, pray them slowly. If you recite Quran, recite fewer verses with deeper attention. If you make dhikr, make less dhikr, but with more awareness. Many people rush toward more actions. Al-Ghazali repeatedly points toward deeper sincerity. A small flame can give more light than a large pile of cold wood. The third practice is trust training. Every day, identify one worry you cannot control. Write it down, then make dua and consciously hand it back to Allah. Not once. Repeatedly, the ego always tries to reclaim control. Your task is to keep returning the burden. Over time, the heart learns a new habit, reliance, not as an idea, as a lived reality. The deepest lesson in Al-Ghazali's map is not that Tawhid has 4 levels. The deepest lesson is that Tawhid is not merely something you say, it is something you become. Many people spend their lives trying to arrange the world around them. They chase security, status, approval, and control. Yet the heart remains restless. Why? Because the heart was not created to orbit these things. It was created to orbit Allah. Every form of confusion begins when something else takes that central place. Every form of clarity begins when Allah returns to it. The journey of Tawhid is therefore larger than personal peace. It is larger than spiritual comfort. It is the restoration of proper order. The servant returns to servanthood. The heart returns to its Lord. The world returns to its true size. And when that happens, fear shrinks, pride shrinks, greed shrinks. The soul begins to breathe again. The people remembered long after their deaths are rarely those who controlled the most. They are often those who surrendered the most. Not surrender to weakness, not surrender to fate, surrender to Allah. That surrender does not make a person smaller. It makes them free. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is no longer being ruled by anything except the one who created you. That is the road Imam al-Ghazali lays before you. A road from words to trust, from trust to surrender, from surrender to witnessing, from witnessing to a life that quietly reflects the reality of La ilaha illallah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah. Be honest with yourself in the comments. Which level of Tawhid do you feel you are living most often right now? And what is the one attachment you know Allah is asking you to release?